It's the best time of the year, autumn! I love the month of October, and not only because I got married in October and had my baby in October, but it's also just a great time of year, and I'm so excited that the weather is starting to get cooler because cooler weather means even more cozy knits and even better weather for knitting and crocheting and all the snuggly yarn. Hey there, Fiber Junkies! Welcome back to the Color Cauldron. I'm Johanna, the owner and dyer behind Potion Yarns and host of this video channel. If you are new here, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have fun in our weird, crazy, crafty little corner. And if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. Thank you so much for coming back to spend some more time with me. Today we're just going to do a really fun video catching up on what I've been working on, as well as showing you the super exciting fall themed project I'm about to start in a couple days. So I can't wait to show you what I've been working on and what I'm going to be working on, so let's get started. The first thing I have to show you is a finished object, except for a tiny little bit of finishing that isn't done yet. I still need to weave in the ends. But everything is finished, cast off. I blocked this monster, and now I just need to finish weaving in some of the ends. Some of the ends I wove in as I went, but I didn't do it with all of them, so I need to finish the last few little pieces that are hanging down. But then once I get those done, hopefully this afternoon, I will have another finished stole for you. And it's the mystery knit along that I did. If you have watched the video channel for a little while, you know that a month or so ago I had mentioned that I was doing my first ever mystery knit along. Casapinka, a designer who publishes online and has a very prolific output. I had knit one or two of her patterns before and had a couple more in my queue to do next, but I saw that she was going to be doing this mystery knit along, and I have never participated in one before, but I had always wanted to do one because they just looked really, really fun. And I loved the idea of just getting a clue every week and not knowing what your finished object was going to look like, but just getting some very light general guidance on choosing colors and yarn, and then getting to make kind of a mystery surprise, and you only get to see a little bit of the pattern at a time. And everybody does it together, so it's really, really fun, and there's just surprises in store, and it's kind of like a no sweat kind of just for fun project. Like, not a lot of planning, not a lot of really intense gauge or anything like that. So I thought it would be fun to join in. I had a couple of my customers from the yarn store that had asked me to put together kits for them for this particular knit along, and when I went to go read the guidelines that the designer put out for how to select colors for this pattern so that I could make them a kit that would work, I was reading through all of the information she had posted up online, and I just started getting really excited, and I had all these fun ideas for color combos, and so I started putting together color ideas for my customers and taking photos of them. And while I was doing it, I totally got sucked in and was like, you know what, I'm gonna do my first ever mystery knit along. And so I joined, I cast on, and I did it. And I stayed pretty close to on schedule. I think I was able to do each clue the week that it came out and finish before the next Friday when the new clue came out, except for the very last one took me slightly longer because I had a whole lot of stuff going on and I didn't get very much knitting time that week. But so I might have finished the last clue like a few days behind where everybody else who was on target did. But the great thing about mystery knit-alongs or any knit-along is that there's general guidelines for like when you should cast on and when you should bind off by. And if they're doing like prizes and giveaways with the knit-along, which I don't think this one did, then you have to finish by the deadline in order to be eligible to win a prize. But like I said, this one wasn't doing it, and even if they had, that's not why I do it. That's not why most people do it, is for the prizes. It's for the fun and the enjoyment and the excitement of doing it together with a bunch of people. And so I didn't really care if I finished on time, and nobody really cares if you don't. Like, even if there's an official deadline, nobody cares if you're still just casting on at the deadline. It's fine. If you want to be participating in real time, you can, but you don't have to be. So I did finally finish it, and then it sat there for a couple weeks because we all know I don't like to block things, but I finally got around to it. So this is what it looks like. I will say I followed the pattern fairly closely, but there were a few times, I've shown the top portion, this is where we started the cast on edge up here, and I showed this top portion already on the podcast. There were a few times that I switched colors though. So like in this section right here, you can see that there is this feather and fan stitch, often known as old shale lace. This is one of my favorite stitches in the entire world, and it's one of the oldest lace stitches I think that we know of, but also the oldest lace stitch that I've done personally. So I really, really love it. And this was supposed to be knit in what would have been the yellow, which is my color C, I believe. Yes, color C. And I didn't want that much yellow, and I decided that for my favorite stitch, one of my favorite lace stitches, I wanted to use my favorite color in my color selection, which is this hand-dyed skein from my shop called Coven. It's this really beautiful dark burgundy-ish skein. I've actually used this in another shawl. Last year I did one with 2 other colors, and I love it so much. I had an oopsie skein in my shop that I was going to have to sell at a discount anyways because it had some imperfect spots in it, and I decided to just take it for myself since I couldn't get full price for it anyways. And you can't even tell that when it's all knit up, you couldn't even see the oopsie spots, so it really didn't take away from the problem at all. And it's really, really stunning, and I'm glad I switched the colors out there. So then I just moved, this would have been the burgundy color, and instead I put it down here. And then there are several sections of the pattern where she gave you general guidelines but said, you know, you can lengthen it by adding more repeats here or take it away, or you can switch colors around or do whatever you want. So like down here in all these little skinny stripes, I didn't really follow the pattern. I just kind of striped it however I wanted to until I got to this bigger stripe, and then I picked back up with the pattern. And then there were sections like down here, there's some ribbing, which doesn't really look like ribbing because you aggressively block this thing. It's a big rectangle, and it's a stockinette stitch base. So there are several sections that are just big swaths of, well, not just big swaths of stockinette, but there's like stockinette stripes several times throughout it, and then there's sections like here at the top where you've got like a stockinette background with some color work using slip stitches, or like all of the lace, or not all of the lace, but several of the lace panels were stockinette stitch panels, and stockinette curls very badly on the edges, especially in rectangles where there is no like shaping or anything. So I decided, since it was going to have so much stockinette in it and a lot of lace, it really needed to be blocked pretty aggressively. So I'm not sure why she put the ribbing section in here. I almost skipped it, but I decided to put it in anyways. But by the time you aggressively block it, it doesn't really hug in the way ribbing usually does. It very much relaxed out and kind of laid flat, and I actually really liked it. I did not like it when I was knitting it, which is why I shortened this section by probably more than half or about half. I know a lot of people lengthened theirs, a lot of other people left it exactly as is, and it was probably double this width this way, but I just didn't want to do that much of it. So I added more sections, like I added more of the stripes, I added some extra of some of these, like I added some extra here because I just really loved this little slip stitch pattern with the 2 colors that made this cute little like dot fabric. So this is basically what is known as a sampler shawl or sampler scarf, because you're just doing different stitch patterns for little like blocks and sections, and there's no fancy shaping. It's just a rectangle, so you have the same stitch count throughout, and you're just using all these different textures to create an interesting, fun, relaxing knit. So the colors that I used for my mystery knit along, this first color was what I chose for color A. This is my colorway Unbirthday Party from the Alice in Wonderland collection. It's a really light sea foam kind of aqua color, and then it has little speckles of brown, gold, and super bright hot pink. It's super, super fun, super like party confetti-ish, and it's just one of my very favorite colors that I have in my shop. And I actually chose this one because it was an oopsie skein as well. I had one of these that it's a sparkle sock, so it has gold stellina that makes it sparkly, and this particular skein, for whatever reason, got a little overcooked in the dye bath, and so the stellina, when that happens, when you have too much dye and or too much heat, it can dull the stellina and cause it to actually quit sparkling. So it doesn't ruin the yarn, it's still perfectly good. It works great as a sock yarn or sweaters or whatever. It's absolutely not a problem, but you don't see the stellina as well. So if you look really closely, which you probably can't see on the camera, there is still a little bit of gold sparkle here and there in the light, but it's very, very minimal, and mostly you can't tell very well that there was sparkle in it. So because of that, I couldn't sell it as a normal sparkle skein because I like my skeins pretty blingy. So I wasn't able to sell it at full price, so I had it in my oopsie bin of discount yarns I was going to sell for a discounted rate, and then I decided I'll just take that one for me because it's one of my favorite colors anyways, and then I'm not taking away from my other inventory, but I can still show off the colorway that I used. And then, like I mentioned already, this burgundy deep purpley black color is called Coven from my shop as well, and this is the Fairy Wing base, which is my merino and silk blend, one of my best sellers. And like I'd mentioned, that one was an oopsie as well. And then I have these two colors. This yellow, this really, really bright yellow, was what I chose for color C, and that's called Icarus. It's just a really lovely yellow semi-solid. And then the other color is called Day Drinker, and it's this really yummy aquatic aqua, kind of bright aqua, very like poolside summer tropical vacation to me. And both of those were just colors I thought would be fun and would contrast well with the other colors. I do, when I step back and look at it, I do really love how the colors look in this all knit up. I had a few moments while I was doing it that I was like, I wish I picked something that had more contrast. I don't love that I chose Unbirthday Party and Day Drinker in the same project when it's like this. I wish there was a bit more contrast. So I think if I did it again, I'd switch Unbirthday Party out for a different color or just pick a whole new palette. Obviously, if I did it again now, I'd pick a whole new palette. But if I was going with these same colors again, I would switch Unbirthday Party out for like a really bright pink or like a really nice interesting brown or something, just something to contrast a little bit more with the other colors. But I really like it. I think it looks really awesome, and I do think once I got it all blocked, I had more of an appreciation for it than when I was knitting, and I was like, ooh, that looks really good. This thing is massive, by the way. She has instructions for a smaller, slightly smaller size stole, and like I mentioned, you can do more repeats of certain sections or fewer repeats or whatever, or you can shorten stuff or lengthen it, but it's super cuddly and cozy this big, and I really, really love a huge shawl, so I decided to make mine gargantuan, although, like I mentioned, it could have been bigger if I had not cut some of the repeats out, but I did, and I'm happy with that. I'm 5'2", so I'm a pretty petite lady, and the last thing I need is to have a shawl that is drowning me. I don't mind swimming a little bit in my stoles, but I don't want to literally wear a blanket around. So this was a perfect, like, oversized stole, but not drowning me in yarn. So, because of that, I have a new project I am just about to cast on, and it's another mystery knit along, you guys. I said that while I was doing that, I actually thought I was going to love this idea because normally I'm a girl who loves a good surprise. I love taking a chance. I love mystery grab bag purchases and things like that. I'm usually such a sucker for those kinds of things. But I'm also really, really picky about my colors, especially I think I've gotten pickier since I've started dyeing as well, which makes sense. But because of that, after I got started, I originally cast these on in a different order of colors at the very beginning of the shawl, and I was knitting this first section for Clue 1, and I got down to about the stripes and was like, I don't like this, because I had this color was my yellow, and there was like a lot of yellow, and I was like, oh my Lanta. I love me a pop of yellow, but I don't know about the huge old swath of it, and I just wasn't loving the way the colors were laying, and I kind of panicked, and I decided it's only Clue 1, I've only knit like a few inches down, so I ripped it all out, reordered the colors, and I'm so glad I did because I ended up loving what I did much, much better. And then, like I mentioned, there were a few times later on where I moved colors around a little bit, but mostly I stuck to following what she laid out in the pattern after that. But because of that, it caused a little bit of stress every now and then, because I was like, do I really love how these are going? What if I don't like the way I laid the colors out? I wish I'd known what it looked like better overall so that I could choose colors better. And ended up, I loved how it came out. However, because of that stress, there were several times during the knitting that I was like, I'm glad I did this once. I'm never going to do this again. This was a bad idea. I'm way too much of a control freak to do a mystery knit along. I want to know how the colors are going to fall when I'm planning and choosing colors, because sometimes colors look amazing together when you have them in skein form all laid out. They might even look great together if you knit a really small swatch, but then when you start actually placing them into a big, large project and or doing different stitch patterns, sometimes you don't really end up liking how it looks. And so I kind of didn't think I was going to do one, but then I got talked into it. So the new mystery knit along that I'm doing, you can probably guess. Actually, by the time this video comes out, it is just getting started this weekend, and that is Stephen West's mystery knit along for 2020. Now, Stephen West is one of my favorite designers. If you've watched my video channel for a while, you know that I have knit several of his patterns before, and I love his work most of the time. Like 95% of his designs I really love, even some of the quirky weird ones. There's 5% that are not my cup of tea, but I think they're still genius. They're just not my cup of tea. But it's a really, really low number of those. Most of his I really love. And I have so many of his patterns on my want to knit list that I just haven't gotten around to, but I will. So the mystery knit along was coming out. I heard people talking about it, posting on Instagram about it. So I've decided to go ahead and cast it on. But when I went to go choose colors, originally I decided, okay, I'm gonna do this, this is fun. And I was looking at ideas for colors online, and some people had already picked their yarn like a month before it even launched. There were people already posting their choices online, and I thought, ooh, I will just look at their ideas. I'll kind of like steal somebody else's color palette idea that I like and just build something off of that, right? Well, I also decided this is a great time to use up Stash, because it calls for 4 different colors of fingering weight yarn, and one of the skeins, your main color, you need 2 skeins, the rest you just need 1 skein. So I figured I can use like Stash yarn that I've been saving. It doesn't have to be my hand dyed, it can be something else, and then I can use up stuff that I've just been hoarding for years. So I went to my stash and I started digging around, and I couldn't come up with anything. Nothing looked good together. And I bought his pattern, and then I read all of the information that he gives you about like how to select colors, because he gives you really detailed information. And he even gave examples of like, this is going to be similar to these 2 other designs I've already done. So if you're really, really struggling with colors, go look at these 2 patterns, get an idea for how quickly the color changes happen so you know how much contrast you need. And then he showed his official kits he was offering, and you get all of this information without getting any spoilers of the actual pattern, but it helps you plan. That's the kind of thing that I need. I need someone to give me as much information as possible, but not actually spoil the thing, so that I'm prepared and I have a good time, but I'm not ruining the surprise. So yeah, I really appreciate all of that. But in the end, I ended up choosing only 1 skein from Stash. This one. This is a Malabrigo sock yarn that I have had in my stash for not actually all that long. About 2 years, I think. It was just a very on a whim buy. I went to one of my local yarn stores called Yarn Shop and More in Overland Park, Kansas, and she's a great, great shop. I've shopped with her for years and years, and I just needed a needle like 2 years ago, and it was just, my defense was it was just becoming fall when I went in. So I was so over summer. I hate summer, it's my least favorite season, and I love fall. And I was so excited that it was finally like September or whenever it was, and fall was on the way, that I walked in to buy 1 circular needle, and I was on a very tight budget, and I walked out with 3 skeins of yarn that I absolutely had zero plan for. But it was this skein of beautiful orange from Malabrigo, and then 2 beautiful like kind of mustardy gold skeins. And my only defense was they were phenomenal fall colors, and they were right out there in front, right by where I needed to go for my needle. They were so pretty. And I figured they were all semi-solid, so you can use them in just about any project. So, and they're also orange and yellow, which are like some of my favorite colors in the whole wide world, so they came home with me. So anyways, I had no plan for it, and I've been saving it, and I kept thinking, this orange is so stunning, I'm going to save it for something really, really spectacular. And I figured Stephen West knits the Stephen West knit along, there we go, is the perfect way to use up this special skein of orange. But it's not a really expensive skein, it's just Malabrigo, which if you don't know, that goes for around $15 or $16. Maybe slightly a couple dollars more if you're in a really, really expensive area. But usually you can find it for $16 to $20 a skein, and it is hand dyed, but it's not like small batch indie dyers. It's a larger company in South America. They're really great. I love Malabrigo yarns, and they're a perfect introduction into hand dyed yarns because they are a more affordable price point and they have such a wide range and such beautiful, stunning colors. So I do love Malabrigo a lot, but I wanted to use this skein, and so, but nothing in my stash went with it. Like, nothing. So after a lot of stressing and almost deciding that I wasn't going to do it because I couldn't find anything to go with it, I ended up just shopping my own hand-dyed yarn store and I came up with the perfect Halloween-inspired palette. And this is what I got, you guys. This is my West Knits Fall Mystery Knit Along for 2020. I've never joined his Mystery Knit Alongs, but I feel like this is a great one to start with, and I'm obsessed with my color choices. So my main color is going to be this lovely black semi-solid that I dye in my shop. This is my Foxy Sock base, and this one is called Samhain. It's a color I've had around for like 3 years now. The original Samhain was a little bit lighter, and then I was like, you know what, I need more black. It was originally like a really dark charcoaly gray with some black glazing, and then I was like, you know what, this is almost good, but it's not there yet, and I need more black. So I did more black and I rejiggered it, and so ever since then, about almost 3 years ago, it's been this lovely black semi-solid, and it is so, so pretty. It is actually one of my favorite colors in the shop, even though it's like super, super simple, but I really love it. So this is going to be my main color. It's going to be like a slip stitch color work shawl, so this is going to be like my main color that is kind of the background color, and then the other three are going to be the poppy colors. And I chose super high contrast yarns because that's the sort of person I am. I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm not exactly known for my subtlety, both when it comes to my fashion and when it comes to my personality. So I'm known actually for not being very subtle. So I decided, just what the hey, I'm gonna go super not subtle with it. He actually made some kits that are going to be more of a subtle, like almost fade type color work, but no, I can't do it. I need some bright poppy Halloweeny colors. So after I had these two selected, I then needed two more contrast colors, and I turned to two fabulous speckles from my indie dyed shop. The first one is called Zombie Blood. This is a really old color as well. I think this was the first year I was in business, maybe beginning of the second year. But it's like this chartreusey acid green. It's like a neon. It is actually a blacklight reactive neon. So it will glow in the dark, which is fun. And it's this really eye-searing green, and then it has these fabulous speckles. They're actually like a magenta pink and a violety purple, but on the green background, if you look close, you can see kind of a pinky purple, but they really kind of look, the pink turns almost red on this green, so it looks almost like blood splatters. And I kind of love that. So Zombie Blood is going to be one of my contrast colors, and then the other one is going to be an old club color called Miss Violet's Flying Machine. This is from the year 2018, my second year in business. I had, I did some yarn clubs that year where you could sign up every month, so it wasn't an ongoing subscription, it was just a month-by-month pre-order basically. And the theme that year was steampunk colors. And then when I do a club color, after the pre-orders close, everyone who ordered it gets their yarn within a couple weeks because it's dyed to order. And if you don't order it then, you miss out on the chance. But sometimes I create really fabulous colors for yarn clubs and I can't bear to say goodbye to them forever. So I have a little caveat in there. Some colors don't ever come back from clubs, so you should always just buy it if you love it because you don't know if it's going to come back. But usually I lock the recipe in the dye vault for 1 year, and then I reevaluate and I can bring it back after a year, but that doesn't mean it's going to come back. In fact, I think I've only brought back one or I think two club colors before this one ever. And so there's a bunch that I want to bring back even. I just haven't gotten around to it, but I think I've only ever brought 2 back. So this one is coming back this year, this fall. I just dyed up a batch of this that I will be putting in the shop soon. And it's this really stunning, super vivid, bright purple, like heliotrope, with a little bit of like a pinky fuchsia-y background. And then it has these fabulous black speckles all over it. I just love this color so much. It is super, super just bright and vivid and like bold and feminine and fabulous, and I just stinking love it. So I was going off of very classic Halloween colors of black, orange, acidy green, and purple. These just looked like Halloween to me. It's super stereotypical Halloween, super like over the top, bright, vivid contrast, almost like eye-searing colors, and I love it. So now that you know what I finished and what I'm going to be working on, I do have 2 works in progress to show you. The first one I am going super fast on and I'm super proud of. I just cast this on a couple days ago and it's almost done. It's a baby sweater. It's a baby sweater for Baby Potion. He is growing so stinking fast, you guys. Oh my gosh, he turns 1 in just over a week. I can't believe my little man is growing up. He's growing up so fast and he is doing so well on everything. He's just cruising all over. He's chattering up baby babble like nobody's business. I think he's gonna be a talker like his mama. Probably because I talk to him nonstop all day long when I'm home with him, which is like all the time. And I just really love how he's developing. But one of the things I don't love is that he outgrows his cute little clothes super, super fast. And I sometimes look at pictures or look at his old baby clothes and think, oh my God, my baby used to be like so little. And now he's like a chonker and he's huge and he's outgrowing his pants and his shirts all the time. So I knit him a baby sweater last year when he was like a month old. I knit him a really tiny little baby sweater that he was able to fit because it's knit and stretchy, and I knit up a little bit. I knit like 1 size up for him, and so he was able to wear it for like 3 months, which for a newborn is really great. And I was really excited. Actually, probably maybe more like 5 months. 4 or 5 months at least. But it was really cute. I just used acrylic yarn and I just used leftovers that I had from other projects though, because I didn't want to spend a lot of money or time knitting something out of really nice yarn that he was only going to wear for a couple months, and I didn't know how fast he'd grow. But he outgrew that one a while ago, and so I decided that I would knit him another pattern that I bought last year when he was a newborn but I didn't knit yet, and that is the Antler cardigan. This darling little pattern is by Tin Can Knits. And what I love about this pattern and I'm sure it's not every single pattern. Well, I don't know, maybe it is every pattern. I don't know. But every pattern I've seen of hers, she designs these adorable little gender neutral sweaters that you can knit all the way from newborn size up to like 3 or 4 extra large for men. Like everyone in the family that you could possibly imagine can have a matching sweater, which I think is awesome. So I felt like when I bought a couple of her patterns last year, because I also bought the Gramps cardigan, which is what I knit him when he was a newborn, I was like, well, this is really like multiple patterns in one, because I mean it's $7 for a pattern, which is not bad for a cardigan pattern. But I'm not just going to knit it for my baby, I'm also probably going to knit it for him when he's an older kid, or I'll knit it for someone else. I'll knit it for me, for my husband, for my mom, for my sister-in-law, somebody's going to get another sweater. And I'm really wanting to knit either my husband or myself, maybe both of us. Is that too like 1950s cheesy matchy-matchy? Maybe, but I love this pattern. It's super simple, just like stockinette with ribbing for the body and sleeves, and then the yoke you have these darling little antler cable patterns, which are super easy. If you're new to cables, you should totally check this pattern out because they're really, really easy. She has very clear instructions, and this is very simply constructed. There's no sewing of seams. You just cast on at the bottom. You knit the sleeves first up to the underarm and then just put them on hold. Then you knit the body up to where you join the sleeves, join them all, and then knit the yoke, doing the decreases up. And then I still need to pick up the button band. I just this morning finished casting off the neckline and grafting the underarms. That's the only sewing there is, and I don't consider using Kitchener stitch and grafting to be sewing. I consider that like a knitting technique. And even if you do consider it sewing, it's like 6 stitches worth, so it's not bad at all. So I love it. It's going really fast. I am knitting him the 1 to 2 year size, which I think will fit him perfectly now, but also will give him a little bit of growing room so that he can make it through this winter all being able to wear this sweater. I will be shocked if he's able to wear this sweater next fall. I do not think that's going to happen, but if I can at least get him to spring in this, I will be really happy. So for the yarn, I was really torn, and I'm not sure I love what I did, actually. I chose just an undyed bare yarn. This is from my shop. This is my Bombshell worsted, and this was a skein waiting to be dyed, and I will sometimes use undyed, just washed, prepped, but no dye yarn, because it's a really great, just like kind of almost creamish white or off-white, depending on what type of wool it is. And it's really just a nice classic color. And so I wanted the very classic, old school, cable-y cardigan kind of look. And the original Tin Can Knits pattern, her sample is knit in white. And I really, really liked how that looked. So I wanted to do that very, very classic look. So I chose the undyed yarn, and then while I was knitting it, I was like, why did I do this? It's so boring, you guys. It's so boring. I'm so used to working with at least a few speckles here and there, if not an actually vividly, beautifully, I mean, I love a good neutral. I kept thinking as I was going, I could have gotten a really great look with one of my light neutral colorways, like my new Breadline color from the 1930s collection, or my old school favorite opera glasses, which is a really stunning, like oystery kind of super light. It's darker than white, but it's a super, super light champagne-y color. I could have gone with one of those and still gotten the same light, goes with everything kind of look, but more exciting than just white. But I think I do like it overall. And now that it's done, except for the button band, I'm pretty excited about it. So I'm hoping that tonight I can finish the button band, and then he'll have his little sweater. It actually turned kind of chilly here a couple weeks ago, and it wasn't like cold, but it was down to the like 60s, upper 50s, and I was like, oh yay, fall weather. And then I was like, oh my gosh, my baby is now in 12-month clothes and he does not have any sweaters or anything. So I went to the thrift store and bought him a hoodie because I didn't have a sweater knit yet, but I also immediately cast on a sweater this week, thinking he needs a sweater for this winter. So that's what we're doing. And now I want to knit him all the things, and I'm thinking about making another Gramps or some other kind of little cardigan. And I also want to make him a pullover. You guys, I gotta hurry though, because he's growing like a weed, and before I know it, he's gonna be out of the sweater that I cast on, so that's what I gotta work on. One final project. I know. If you're new to this channel, you might be like, what the heck, woman? Like, calm down and do one project at a time, maybe 2. Okay, maybe if you're about done with your baby cardigan, maybe you can be working on something else. What I'm not telling you is that I have multiple things to block just sitting around. I also have 2, not 1, but 2 temperature blankets that I started in February. Yeah, I'm crazy. I have no self-control, and I'm crazy. But I'm not going to show you those right now because there's not a lot to show. They're also huge and bulky, and I'm just going to wait till I'm done and show them to you later. I did show them months and months ago, so you can scroll back through old videos and see the beginnings of them, but we'll talk about that another time. Instead, I want to show you what I've actually been working on, because I keep putting the blankets down and not working on them for like weeks at a time. But this is something new that I just cast on last week, and it's going fairly quickly, but I keep putting it down to work on like baby sweater and block things and spin yarn and all of that stuff. So I want to show you what I'm working on. It's a hat pattern. I love knitting hats. I also love wearing hats. I am a hardcore dedicated hat wearer. And I love them. I love them in just about every style, almost every style, every single color. And I love hand knit hats, but I also love vintage hats. I collect vintage hats, and I think I collect hand knit hats too, based on how many I knit for myself and other people. But this is what I'm working on right now. And I was hesitant to even show this to you because I have to confess something that's going to make a lot of you guys really angry, and that is you cannot purchase the yarn that I'm using because it is a one-of-a-kind skein, and it no longer exists in the world because I selfishly took it for myself. Yes, it is one of my hand-dyed skeins, but I selfishly took it for myself. It is stunning. It is gorgeous. It is amazing. and I wish I could recreate more of it for you, but I have something really similar. It's not going to be exact though. So this is a yarn that I dyed a few years ago. And I did not write the recipe down because as I was dyeing it, I was having a really hard time controlling the colors. Now, I am much better at my job than I used to be a couple years ago now, so I feel like I could probably, if I had, I would give it another try, and maybe I'd be able to figure out some tricks I've learned to help control the colors so that they're not bleeding into each other. But this one was a nightmare of bleeding, running colors, splotches where it wasn't supposed to be, and bleeding in the water even after I'd set it. It's not coming off on my hands though, which is known as crocking, and so I did not wash the swatch, but I very highly doubt that it's going to bleed in the water, and if it does, I'm working, the other color I'm working with is very dark, so it won't really affect it too badly. So I'm not terribly worried about it, but because I had so much trouble with it back then, I was like, this is not worth it. I'm not putting this in the shop because I don't want to ever have to go through this headache again. So what I did instead was I jotted down some notes of how I could do something really similar colors but change a few of the dyes or the processes I was using to try and get something close, and I ended up re-dyeing a color called Dancing Queen, which has not been in my shop for a long time, but I'm going to try to do some this winter so that I can get something similar to this out for you. But I will say this was dyed using the same technique that a lot of my variegated yarns are using, so it's got short color runs, they're not super stripy, but a lot of that depends on your gauge and project, but it creates this really, really variegated, fun pattern. So most of my variegated yarns, if not all of them, would look very similar to this kind of workup. So you could do something like Inoculation Against Nihilism, or something like Speakeasy, or Tiki Bar, any of those things, or Dancing Queen, when I get it back in the shop, would be a similar way to how it would work up. But these exact colors you're never going to get again because I didn't write down the recipe. This pattern is called Clever Chevy by Knit and Tonic. I'll put a link to it below. As with all of these patterns, I either link to them or I at least put down, usually I'll write down the designer's name and the pattern name so you can Google it and find it, because I know not everyone is on Ravelry and not everyone uses the same websites and ways of finding patterns these days. So usually I figure if I give you the designer name and the name of the pattern, you can Google it and find it for yourself. But if I can, I will leave a link as well. But I love this pattern so much. It is really, really simple and easy. It's a stockinette background chevron. I have been a little obsessed with chevrons. Both of my temperature blankets I'm knitting right now are chevron, stockinette chevron patterns. I did another chevron hat earlier in the spring this year called the Fruju hat, which I showed on this channel in my Plaza Lights Kansas City colorway. It's really, really stunning. That one you just used one color of variegated or self-striping yarn. This one you could use self-striping, or it's written for variegated with short color runs like I'm using, but you could use self-striping as well. And you could do it with just one color. You just, where it says to change to the from main color to the contrast color, you just wouldn't do that. You just keep knitting because it's the same stitch pattern all the way through. It's just like striping the color while staying in pattern. So you could just cut out the stripes and just do one color if you wanted, or if you only had one skein, and it would take less than a full skein to do a beanie out of this. Or you can do what I'm doing and what the pattern calls for, which is to take a contrast color of a solid, semi-solid, or another variegated if you are feeling real bold and crazy, and you can stripe it in. She does give you exactly where to change the colors if you want to follow that, but I'm not doing that. I'm just knitting whatever. I'm doing a very like intuitional knit where I knit for however long I feel like with the main color, and then I put in that contrasting purple stripe and then go right back to what I was doing. This is an electric violet colorway from my shop called Spank Me. It is impossible to photograph, so I have actually not been able to put it in the shop. I've only had it at in-person events so far because I just cannot get it photographed right. My husband is going to help me with that coming up here soon. I think we're going to try it again because it really is a stunning color. It's a little bit tricky to dye, and it's ridiculous to photograph, and it's never been a very great seller for me, but I don't know why, because I love it, you guys. Look at it. I don't know if you can see it as well, but it is like this blue violet, and it's like neon blue violet, if that were a thing. I don't know, maybe apparently that's a thing, but I didn't know that was a thing. But I love it, I love it, love it. And I decided to use a semi-solid to ground the crazy, crazy busy of this background. But I love that it doesn't look like super stripey. Like, it is stripes, but it doesn't look just like super hard, crisp stripes. It's definitely, you could almost think that this was just one yarn because of how well it goes with the background while still contrasting. So I am almost to the crown decreases. I do still have a little bit of the body to go, and then I'll do the decreases, so I'm getting very close to being done, and I guarantee you I'm gonna have most of both of my skeins left over. So I'm thinking some matching fingerless gloves are gonna be in order because I am obsessed with this color. And I'm sorry to do that to you. I know how annoying that is. But hey, one-of-a-kind colors are a thing, and let this be a lesson to you. If you see a one-of-a-kind colorway in a dyer's shop and you love it, you better freaking snap it up, because you do not know that you're ever going to get the chance. That's why it's called one-of-a-kind. They're probably not going to dye it for whatever reason the same way, or if ever again. If you are obsessed with this color, though, I do highly recommend that you click on the link below to join my email newsletter, or you follow me on Instagram and or Facebook, because I will be posting once I get Dancing Queen back in the shop. It's probably going to be later this winter, but it will be coming back at some point. So definitely follow me there so you can take advantage of that fabulous color, because it's very similar and it's really, really pretty. It is really time to go. Baby just woke up from his nap, so I gotta go pick him up, and I hope you guys are having a great rest of your day, and happy fall, everyone! I'm thrilled it's finally October. I can't wait to see what you've been working on. Don't forget to leave a like on this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss an episode. We do all kinds of fun things. Besides catching up on my knitting, we do Saturday night at the movies, we do tutorials, and just fun little videos about all types of knitting, dyeing, occasionally crocheting, things like that. So join us in our Fiber Junkie corner of the world. I hope you have a great day, but it is now time to cast off. Love you!